Hello, everybody, and welcome to another My Music. Today, I'm going to be speaking to the man, the legend who is Jah Wobble. Thank you for joining me on this beautiful sunny day in what seems like the last hurrah of summer at the moment, doesn't it?
It certainly does, yeah, yeah. Hopefully, it's an Indian summer and it'll linger. But it's sunny but pretty fresh today. So yeah, this is autumnal. It's beautiful though. It's my favourite time of year.
We will be back to speak all about dub and this man's wonderful career in music straight after this.
Keep on, don't stop. Keep on, don't stop. Keep on, don't stop.
Yeah, thank you for joining me, John. I was having a look on your Wikipedia earlier because it's always a great starting point.
That's a mess. I mean,
Isn't it a mess?
I tried to get it updated, and the person who did it, Mrs. actually, and because she said she's sort of wrong, it's really out of date, basically. And it was an issue getting it done. I don't know why.
Really?
Yeah. I don't know why it was an issue. Because you need verification or something and blah, blah, blah,
Oh, it's one of these things. We've all got these templates of us on the internet these days, and then half of it's not right. And it just makes you wonder. But
I know Wikipedia used to be a lot easier to sort of change, but certainly it proved difficult for us because a few people said, why not, do something about your Wikipedia. So I'll try. Maybe you have to go to a Wikipedia expert.
We have to explain, by the way, folks, if you see under Jah Wobble's name, he's got Spurs there. That's because from time to time you use this platform to do a little
podcast. Yeah. So don't be upset or put off with that. I quite understand people that hate football or hate sports. It's not an issue to me at all. I prefer people that hate football and hate sports to people that only know a little bit about football.
Is that the same with music as well? Or not?
Actually, if you get talking about music with people and they want to talk, they're normally like enthusiasts, and enthusiasts tend to know stuff. So, you might have a thing with people where they'll be talking about stuff, say pop music from the 60s, and I like a lot of pop music from the 60s, but they might be talking about stuff that I don't like, but what they've got to say is kind of interesting. If you say, music conversations tend to be interesting.
Have you ever got into a big argument with anybody about music on any?
Only in the studio, and then where I want my way and they want theirs, and then there's an argument, and of course I can always justify it with, what I think are grand philosophical arguments, and aesthetically, feel I'm more sensible than they are or whatever, but no, generally, why would you ever, Black Sabbath are better than the Who or some
So it's nonsense, isn't it?
It's just crap, what does it mean,
Yeah, it doesn't really mean anything. What got you started in music?
Well, I love music. I thought everybody did. So I was just really grabbed by music early on, just as a human being, Very early on, there was a tune. This is a British band lead. I forget his name. I always forget the bloody name. It do 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 do. Then there were certain things which the one I always remember, the Beatles, where I didn't particularly like the Beatles. Kind of wondered what the fuss was about as a very little boy. All the little girls in the playground would be singing "She Loves You," yeah. Even my mum and dad's generation at the time really liked them. They were 4 clean-cut working-class boys from Liverpool. They liked them, I kind of wondered what they didn't really like their stuff that much at the time. But then they went all psychedelic in '67. and my mum and dad and uncles and aunts hated them.
And that's when you liked them.
Yeah, and I just thought, well, I better be careful saying this, but this is Strawberry Fields. Was the first one I heard, and all. I just thought the stuff I heard was just did something to me in the way dub did something to me, and of course, this psychedelia dub, there's quite a connection. It's all sort of mind expanding, you know. So at the extreme level, it did that. There was stuff like I remember Get It On. T-Rex, it was just such a simple song and a kind of white boys version of blues of sorts, but just fantastically done as some of the British musicians, so sort of innovative and so interesting when they imitated America, like Cream or whoever, some of the Stones. I'm not a massive Rolling Stones fan at all, but some of the, stuff like Ruby Tuesday would have been probably my favourite Stones tracks, which sort of tells you something, But so yeah, I just really love music. I now tend to think it's a bit like alcohol. I thought everybody loved to drink, and you come to realize some people like to drink more than others. I was one of those people that really like to drink.
Were you quite surprised the first time you met somebody that really didn't like music?
And you still meet people that it's quite common that I have a lot of those. Well, they'll tell me, well, I heard your stuff. Oh, it's a bit weird, isn't it? So what people are straining to tell you a lot of the time is, I haven't got a very developed palate. I haven't got very developed taste. That's what they're telling you. And they would tell you like it's going to be the most important thing in the world. And you normally let it go. But there are times I will say to people, because it's such a tiresome sort of conversation, you're just telling me you're limited. I wouldn't go up to an artist, say, that did strange abstracts, and go, well, I find your art really weird, and to be honest, I only really like some of the impressionist paintings and Van Gogh.
Oh, I only like, yeah, exactly. I only like
popularist kind of things, and so they're kind of falling over. So it's something very English about that. I'm not looking just to knock English culture. English culture's fantastic. William Blake. There's so much that, and there's a great spirit of non-conformity with England. So I'm not looking just on England. Far from it. Elgar. That should be the national anthem. Elgar's variations. Enigma variations. So I've got no problem with any of that. But it's a very English thing to me. It's the opposite to the French, who are into all the philosophy and great food and developing the sound. It's very prosaic. Saloon bar. Oh, I don't like that. It's weird. I only eat certain kind of food. Oh, I'm not trying that. It's quite English. Well,
what I tend to find, is I tend to find that like a lot of people will say to me, oh, I'm very eclectic in my taste. I like a lot of different stuff. I'm really open to stuff. And then when you start saying, well, have you heard this or have you heard that? And they're like, no, what's that?
That's right. Well, that's a very good. I like everything, me. And then I'll even Captain Beefheart. Oh, what's that? Okay, So
then you start to realise how narrow their palette actually is, because they haven't heard of anything. No, it's quite interesting. But it was interesting because you mentioned Van Gogh, and me and my wife, it was our 25th recently, so we went over to Amsterdam. And we did the Van Gogh exhibition, but that is quite poignant because when you go around that exhibition in the Van Gogh Museum, you realise how much of his art you don't see, if you know what I mean. And I think that's the same with a lot of music as well. We tend to see the surface level.
That's absolutely right. I kind of made a decision in the 90s. I'm bringing it back to myself here, of course. But anyway,
of course,
it's all about me. But no, I made a decision in the 90s. Do I stay with a major record company? So I had a choice. I'd been offered a new deal with Ireland. They wanted me to sort of get rid of my band at the time that I had, which, to be fair, it was a fair point they were making, to be fair. They wanted me to change everything around me and kind of start again with a producer. It would make complete sense. But I was producing lots of left field music. And it's like, well, what do I do? And I just thought, well, I've just got to go down the road of the artist. And there are certain artists, like, for instance, Clint Eastwood. I think I've seen all these like even the TV stuff, all the films he's acted in,
Yeah.
all the films he's directed. So it's the development of an artist. You see, say Miles Davis for a while, checked everything out, outtakes from here, and you see the development of the artist. And it's often with some of the fine arts, the little in between sketches, you know, that tell you more about the development of the artist than the cusps the various cusps those artists have been on, more than the, you know, the flagship, you know, starry song night or whatever, you know. Yeah.
You do literally, you are what's thrust in front of you by the media and everything else, and society is literally the sort of like the pinnacle of years of development and work and tearing down and rebuilding and you know, starting again.
And it's marketed, you know, so, as well. You know, it's a certain when you think about it, a record is a big collection of various concepts overlaid over each other musically, cover-wise. Covers were big back in the day, so it's a certain concept. And you know, in order to survive, you have to be able to hang one or two big paintings, to make a bad analogy, you know, a bad analogy, off people's walls. You have to be able to capture people with seemingly quite simple kind of concepts at times, whereas understated things tend not to do as well, because there's a lot more going on under the surface of what seems a pretty bare concept, possibly. You know, there's actually a lot going on, you know, with the space that's left in things, for instance, you know. So that's quite right. You know, it's how it is. And I you know, I suppose some people just have a knack or a desire to do big seller after big seller. Someone like Stephen King, who you would see him develop as a writer with his short stories and all that, for sure. But, you know, it's just it's got the formula of being blockbuster. Big groups like U2, I guess it's that, you know, they couldn't do something small if they wanted to now, you know, or something. Well, they could.
They try, don't they, from time to time? I mean, I notice, like...
Yeah, it's always very sort of, when I mean, I don't know them exactly. I mean, I work with The Edge, and yeah, I'm just using them as an example because they're kind of huge. But you see, you know, big artists. I've been involved, you know, met big artists who wanted to do something left field, you know, and you just think, well, you've gone too far down a certain popularist road now, and it's fine, you know, you should be happy with that, you know, but they want to be respected as real artists. I think probably actors get like that as well, you know. It's probably easier for actors. They're being some blockbusters, but they really want to be seen as a real actor doing Shakespeare or something, you know. You know,
how does it feel to you as someone at this point in your career as well, when you sit in front of someone like me and people immediately take you back to like PIL, and you know, it's like,
I don't.
You don't mind that,
me,
or?
You know? No, because I'm appraising everything all the time. I'm not, you know, like a lot of artists, you tend to think that my latest stuff is my best. You know, I think a lot of artists have got that, you know, attitude. But I'm totally relaxed with it because, God, yeah, how can I say it? When you've got the Dharma, when you see with the correct view, every time you look at something, it's fresh and it's in now.
Yeah.
It's in now, you know. Yeah. So whether you're looking supposedly back in time, it's actually now that you're considering it, you know. Yeah. Or if you're talking about something that you did yesterday, I mean, even the recent stuff you might have done, still in the past, you know.
As soon as you've done it, it's gone.
Still last week. Yeah, it's last week. Mm. So you're digging up old stuff, even when you're talking about your latest thing, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it only really worked when you think about it. If I was in the studio now, playing songs to you and working as a chat, you know, really. So I don't mind. I'm very easygoing. Sometimes people occasionally say, look, I don't want to talk about any of the stuff. We've done that for the last one, you know. I just don't want to talk about any of that. I just want to talk about that. That's like, I'm easygoing with any of it, you know. I enjoy conversation. I suppose I'm always keen, really, to get certain philosophical things I believe in across, and use the vehicle of an interview or or the music to do it. That way, not like a dangerous cult or something. You know what I mean? But you know, I enjoy chat anyway. So
Yeah.
it's all good, you know.
But we all come through.
And whenever I discuss Peel, I can always,
Well,
Johnny Lydon and Keith, you know, they're the terrible people. I was the
but-
nice
but-
one, you know.
But the thing is that we all come through a journey anyway, right? And the journey's part of where you get to anyway. And there's always something you learn along the way.
Well, I mean, that's so true. I mean, with Peel, okay, so I did a remake of Metal Box a few years ago called Metal Box We Built and Dove. I done it with John Klein. He was a lovely bloke. He was in Susan the Banshees and most of the other stuff he's done. Very competent sort of post-punk guitarist, very technically adept. He makes videos and all that stuff. Very nice sort of fella. Oh, it's pouring down with rain now, by the way. Well,
Look at that.
Come back out. Yeah, it's quite strange. But so I did that, and people say, "Why did you do it?" And it's actually, well, I played some shows in America and made an album there with Bill Laswell with my band, and I couldn't be bothered taking.
Who's phenomenal, by the way.
They're great, they're good, and they're really good guys. Having a good laugh with them last night, teasing each other over politics and all that. Good fun, and they're good. They're really, really good lads, and so we went over there, and I said, I'm not taking my heavy Magnum Ovation, so I asked if they just hire me a really good Fender P, just, you know, a regular standard old Fender P, and I'll use that. So I used that. And of course, it's got its own sound. I hadn't used it since the 80s. And I started playing like I did in Public Image, which is great. I went like back to the beginning, and you're doing these chromatic runs, and you're playing in a very sort of naive, but kind of pretty tasteful kind of way. And I was already experimenting a bit with Peel stuff, but now I started playing some of the old Peel bass lines. And so, you know, you've gone all the way back to come into the present again. So, you know, I think sometimes those bad-tempered artists or the bad-tempered, you know, you've got to do those big interviews with big famous actors, and the press person's there. No, don't talk about soap opera labeling, or don't talk about the latest huge movie.
Not allowed to mention that. Yeah.
You know, and you know, everything's kind of interesting, you know. Because if someone like Anthony Hopkins, who I met, who was the actor, he was such a nice guy, it's really, really lovely fella. But you know, with Anthony Hopkins, you know, you just know if you said, tell me about Hollywood or big blockbuster, it'd be really interesting. Tell me about a rep thing, the last rep thing that you were in. It would be really interesting. Do you know what I mean? So it makes no difference, you know.
Yeah.
You know, people that are kind of comfortable with themselves, they're fine, you know.
You don't want a million interviews about Silence of the Lambs. I did notice when I looked down your Wikipedia, I'll bring this up again, but I noticed our name in there that stood out because he's been on here before, which is Chris Connolly.
I had a tour manager called Chris Connolly, funny enough. He's a real character. So I suddenly said, just for a second, he was like, what? But now, Chris Connolly, he's from Oldham. Yeah. There's so much I could say about him, but I can't. But Chris Connolly, very, very nice guy. I'm not just saying that, you know, that whole, it was an awkward little scene with Martin at the time. I'm very good mates with Martin. It promised so much and quickly became like, oh, actually, this is a mistake to get involved in. But I felt sorry for Chris because he was very positive about the whole thing with that Damage Manual. I think he was just like, I think he was at this, oh, can't you all just stop arguing? You know, so me and Geordie were arguing against Martin, you know, and it was just basically, I mean, very clearly, yeah, again, if this where you argue over music, we've done some recordings which were really fresh and really had something, and it was great. And then Martin took them all off we done it at Berwick Street, took the stuff off of the multi-tracks and put it onto his computer, so it was all very 16-bitty. And he tried to sort of make it, he said he wanted to make it sound like Limp Bizkit a bit. In mind Limp Bizkit, what I heard, but, you know, it's like, you know, forget me, you got the guitarist from Killing Joke here, you know what I mean? You know, really got a sound. And Martin's a really great drummer, so it's very frustrating, you know. because audibly, I mean, it was the sonic power of what we originally had was so sort of good. So it was like very simple, like what looking at a beautiful painting that's in progress through a dirty lens. You know, that's how it was for me. So anyway, it all got kind of messy quickly as it can do with that channel. I just opted out of it really quick. I felt sorry for Chris. I think he was doing a straight job. I think he's working in a record store or something, and he would have really enjoyed the music, really wanted to do it. So it was such a night. He was kind of caught in the crossfire. And I've got no problem with Martin at all, but you know, when England were in the World Cup final, was it the World Cup or the Euros last year? We were around his gaff, and I get on really well with him. He was my mate he was my one friend I had in Public Image at the end. I got him in audition, got him in the band, and we were like mates. So we got I think the world of Martin. It was just a shame. It was just that time. Maybe if we'd done it 10 years later, it probably wouldn't have happened 10 years later, because at that point you wouldn't have that kind of issue with the technology. You know, if you wouldn't have recorded onto multi-track. Still, it was just on that cusp. You would have done it straight onto Pro Tools or audio. You see, so you know you probably wouldn't have had. You could have avoided the argument, but as it was either tape or at that time, you know what you could have done was transfer it to a thing called radar, which I wanted him to do. But anyway, I'm starting to do the self-justification of people. They're always right. You know,
it's fine. It's fine.
Yeah.
But it was interesting when his name popped up there, because your music is actually quite approachable in a lot of ways. People might think, "Oh, this is a bit way out," because it has the psychedelic element to it. But if you think about something like the Revolting Cocks, I remember having a copy of Beers, Steers and Queers, and that some of the tracks on that album, especially like the remix stuff, were literally hard industrial. Boom, boom, boom. It was like,
yeah.
You know what I mean? It was just noise, right? I mean, compared with something like that, actually, there's a lot more sympathy to the ear in a lot of the stuff that you do, and actually a lot more connection in a way with stuff that people probably can gravitate towards than something like that. But I find it interesting that musicians can be in all of those spaces and bring all of those different elements together.
Yeah, but I think that's what the argument ended up at, in a way, because you're trying to couple the power of industrial sort of music, the anger of industrial music, the hatefulness of industrial music, with a kind of classic post-punk thing, which we've naturally got. Me, Geordie, and he's passed now, Geordie and Martin, you know, and that's the trouble. Martin started to kind of conceptualize that, which sometimes is fine, you know. Sometimes that's Chris Blackwell done that with Bob Marley, you know. It was more palatable for rock audiences. We'll get some electric, you know, some rock guitar on there. You know, you got a guy from New Orleans or wherever it was. It was fantastic, you know, sort of country rock guitar sort of thing on it, roots guitar, and it worked, you know. So it's not always wrong, but in that instance, it was like that. It's some, you know, sometimes you see people have a very good concept, and the concept carries them a certain way, but the execution isn't that good, you know. You know, I've seen that a few times, and you think, well, it promises, but actually it just falls down with the execution on it. But it's funny you say that, because we've got a new record coming out with John Klein in 3 or 4 weeks on Dimple Disc that's not really industrial, but it's very punky, angry, shouty. I'm the shouty guy on it, shouty, you know, record. So yeah,
that's a good label. That's a good label as well. Good label for that.
Oh, Dimple Disc. I've known Brian a long time and really enjoying working with him now. You know, I hadn't seen it. I remember him when he worked at Virgin Megastore, because the mate of mine, Dave Lynch, worked in there. And then I didn't even know he'd started this label, and which is very, very well respected, I think. So, you know, it's a really good roster.
Do you get to listen to other stuff on Dimple?
That guy, the guy from the Undertones, that single, I really thought, it's like, this is great, you know, it's really
Yeah.
catchy, you know. So I've heard a few of the things on there, really good. He's a really humble sort of guy, Brian, very helpful, you know, just a very, very nice, liberal, you know, really nice person, basically.
Yeah.
And it was a pleasure to kind of be up there because they approached me to do Telefiche, and Cole died from that duo, which was, as you know, it was really sad. I can't believe when I found out. And that's how I kind of teamed up, did it. I thought it was a really nice package. So, you know, done their latest dub record, and yeah, we got another record coming out with Brian next. He's reissuing.
He came on
And
here.
invited to the Heart record as well.
Yeah.
Brian, it's very interesting to talk to you about everyday life. He's got a good take on it all, you know.
Yeah. Let's talk about the new record. It's dub, but it's not just dub. It's, I mean, if it's got the you know, it's got a title that makes you feel like it's a dub album, but it's, you know, for me, I've just sat listening to it this morning. There's as much sort of jazz in there as there is dub. There's little bits of punk in there as well. It's almost symphonic. Doesn't feel like an album where you would just like drop in for one song.
Yeah, it's when at the start of this conversation, when I said about we discussed being an artist, and I harked back to the 90s when I started 30 Hertz Band, got 30 Hertz out on, which I found. Started that label, which I subsequently sold to Cherry Red many years later. But it was at that time I started doing actual records, and what that meant was I started to, as much as anything, meant I started to compose more. So I kind of, you know, did a Requiem Mass at that time, all kinds of stuff. And I developed a compositional style, if you like. And it's just, you know, never really discussed that with anyone, which is kind of strange because I made so many albums developing that compositional style. You know, it's quite modal. It has a certain kind of feel with the strings. I've always loved using strings, right, as string sounds right from the early days. So this record, I didn't in any way think of making it right. This is the culmination of many years of compositional study and theory. It was just a record that kind of like, oh, I think this is going to be a kind of more of a dub record than anything. Very relaxed, not over conceptualizing anything, just in a very natural way writing. And that meant, you know, something like Slavic dub. You know, I'm watching TV and I see stuff on the war in Ukraine, both Russian soldiers, young conscripts, and young Ukrainian guys terrified in trenches, you know, exhausted like animals that have been chased, you know, like exhausted deer or something at the end of a long chase, about to be savaged by the dogs, you know, just bestial. And these sort of Slavic brother races, you know, they're sort of not even cousin races, they're all Slavs, you know, and it just made me very sad. And I just sort of sat, you know, just got to work. I always like to keep it simple. You know, I think simple works best, because I hark back to something like T-Rex and Get It On, you know, you know, it's simple, you know, you always trying to have a hook going on, you know, and do people the honor of being digestible if you can, you know. You cook a good meal and it tastes nice, but it doesn't give people, you know, kind of reflux after they've eaten it. You know. So
does that go into the production as well? Do you know now better than ever before in your career when to stop? Like,
yes, I think so. You can work a lot quicker. I think the technology's helped enormously.
Yeah.
So I still go in the studio. We've got a studio we use, and it's our little place, and me and John, and you know, you can make a record in there in 5 hours now. You know, that would have taken, you know, even back in the day, I'd work quite hard, but you might take 2 or 3 days doing long sessions to complete a track. You can complete a track now with audio and all that really, really quickly, you know. So you kind of know what you're about, as you should do. You should become like a chef, where you're not needing to look at the recipe book anymore. You know, you can go by feel, and you're not over trying it. You're keeping it simple.
Well, so I'm talking about keeping it simple. So then when you come to title this and you call it Dub Volume 1, yeah. I mean,
Yeah, it's a very generic title.
Well, I was going to say it's like Ron Seal, isn't it? Does what it says on the tin.
That's it. Yeah. It's generic. It does what it says on the tin. And also, it's just nice. I enjoyed it so much. I've always called it Volume 1 because it gives you an excuse to make another one because it's fun. You know.
Does it make you do? I'm interested in that. Does that make you do the next one? Are you the kind of person?
I think it does. Yeah, and I've already got tracks. I won't be in any rush, but there'll be a Volume 2. So I've been doing a lot of stuff with my eldest boy. He's really good engineer, producer. He's a very good player as well. So I've been doing some stuff with him for that. You know, for the next volume. So it'll have its own character again. You know.
Something quite exciting about actually, I've not actually thought about this until right this minute, but there's something quite exciting about albums that are called sort of like Volume 1, Volume 2. I don't know if you know what I mean by that, but do you like?
Oh, I do because of the Trojan tighten up 1, 2, 3. You know, so I really get that. Yeah. And actually, even in other genres, that kind of spilled over. You know, I can remember growing up and like people lending me stuff like, do you remember the Sky albums, like with John Williams and proggy stuff? But that was like Sky 1, Sky 2, and then there was like there were other examples. I suppose like the most commercial example of that was like when like Now 1 and Now 2 and those compilation albums came out. There's a point where it tips over, isn't there? And it's like you've gone too far now. Yeah.
But
it sags. But I think the best analogy is with kind of new TV series, HBO. You know, which because I'm a fan of so much HBO. Is the series and the series 2, and then you get something like the one on Carnivals, where they only did 2, and you think, why only 2 series? What's that about? You know, and other times, you know, you might have something like Game of Thrones, and it is just goes on, you know, somehow season after season, fantastic. But what you often get, you get the thing. I had it a bit with the latest version of, and it might have only been season 2, the thing with the mushrooms people. Oh, yeah. Me and the missus, she loved all the zombie sort of stuff. We'd watched the first one, and so they said we just kind of lost interest. It just hadn't developed particularly, it seemed, you know. So we just kind of left it. And sometimes you can see where they're more concerned with an algorithm or something, you know, than the bad advice has been. I just think, God, you've really.
There's all magic in the first 1 or 2, maybe 3 chapters of a series, and there's kind of an expectation that it gives on both the person making it and the listener.
Yeah,
I think there's a great expectation. It's then knowing when to stop that and then go.
Well, the thing is, I suppose with that, we really enjoyed the first one because it was an intelligent variation on the zombie thing, and of course quite plausible with this thing, the mushroom, because there is a mushroom that gets inside, that takes over the brain, the brains of wasps or something in South America or something, you know. So it's not much of a leap to think you're doing it with people. But the thing is with the zombie thing, you know, you can't think, well, what about the next, what are you going to do with the next series? You know, you're going to make the zombies run faster, or be slightly more intelligent, have more reasoning power. You know what I mean? It's difficult, you know.
Yeah. They are to the point where they stop becoming zombies, right?
Yeah, exactly. And then it defeats itself. I'm sure there's lots of people that I bet with that particular series would say the second series is better than the first. He's talking rubbish, you know. So it's fine.
Yeah.
But I went to see 28 years later. I was in London, finished work had an evening. I just thought I'm going to pop in. I hadn't done it for ages. I would go to the pictures on my own, which I really enjoyed doing. So went to see 28 years later, and it was like, and I thought, God, I'm probably going to regret this. Maybe walk out, but they pulled it off. So they had some zombies moved faster than ever. but other horrible, creepy zombies moved like slugs on the ground. There were two distinct forms of zombie, and that kind of, and it was very well filmed. I mean, that Danny Boyle, I think. I really enjoyed it anyway. I wasn't bored or anything watching it.
Have you ever been in the cinema and you've been the only person there?
Yeah, oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah. It's quite.
At the front as well. At the front, and in the West End, I used to love to. And it's funny, my son, my younger boy, got that. He, loves to go to the pit. He's got a girlfriend and everything, but he loves to think nothing. A lot of people would find it strange. He loves movies, loves to be a fire and all that stuff, But he loves to go and see a film in the afternoon. It's tricky because he works now, but he loves to see a film. That the afternoon, mid-afternoon is the best. You come out, especially if you're on your own, because you really are. You come out into the West End and it's like, oh God, what's the movie?
It's really weird.
Was that the movie or is this the movie?
Well, it's really weird sensation as well when you go in at that time of the day, because you go in and you almost feel, I don't know where that's built into us, but you almost feel like when you come out, it should be night. And then if it's still day, it feels kind of odd.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right. Or you've gone in and it's day and you come out and it's night and it suddenly feels really late. Even though it's not really late, it's just like 5 o'clock.
Feels like it's 9 hours later, not just a few. Yeah.
I neglected going to the pictures, but where I stay in London, there's a really good cinema up the road. One of these cinemas where some of the studios, and they call them, are really small. And you have a waiter service. And so me and the missus went to see the Roses the other day.
We did too.
Yeah, it's good, right? I thought it was fun. Yeah,
absolutely.
Any couple married, especially married, but certainly any couple will get that. It's fantastic.
Yeah, no. I think some of the scenes in the Therapist are probably the funniest. But tell me then. So I mean, it sounds like you love cinema and the visual as much as you do the music in some respects. So is that always a big thing for you, or do you always do you kind of see something?
Yeah, you often do. Yeah, very much. It's kind of to do with when I walk. So not so much now, but I used to listen to a lot of certain kind of music when I walk. So when I produced the album for Brian Eno, I would test drive that walking up the River Lee, which at the time you had lots of desolate, semi-industrial, post-industrial kind of landscapes, sort of surreal. So very much so, and I love movies. I love Vangelis sort of movie soundtracks and all that. Although I should have the with him because
with Vangelis,
because with the remake, and I really like Vangelis. I mean, I love that. It's ahead of its time, the Blade Runner soundtrack. So I love Vangelis. On the remake, talking of that Eno album, we had a track in there. So we had a track on the remake of the sequel of Blade Runner, and it got taken out at the last moment. It was all Vangelis again. So there was one with just me and Brian. Got took out. So which if I did lose the night because you don't actually, the money isn't in your account until it's in your account. So. There's no problem. But it would have. When I went to see the film, they got to a certain section where the robots made love. It was like, my track should have been in this with Brian, but whatever.
That's annoying.
Yeah, and it was. I had to tell the publisher because I know someone at Warp, so they said, "Oh, I've got really bad news. It got to really final stage and got whipped out and." They're using the Vangelis, which I can understand for continuity, and he is fantastic.
Could have been worse. You could have been acting in it, and they cut you out. That's
very true. That's very true.
That's why you got to look at that, isn't it? I mean, imagine if you turned up for like a premiere and you'd acted, you had this little bit part in a film. You get there, and it's like, I'm not in it.
Oh, I'm sure I would have had that with stuff that you've gone and played. I can't remember, but I bet that's happened where you play on something and then you're not in it or something. I can't remember that happening, but you could imagine it'd be.
But what you haven't had, my friend, what you probably have never had is the scene from. I don't know whether you remember the comedy strip when they made a thing called Bad News, which was a bit like Spinal Tap. Do you remember that? Yeah. that
Yeah.
scene where everybody else is in the studio, the bass player goes out to get some lunch and whatever, who's rubbish. I think he was played by Rick Mail, and he goes out, and then the lead guitarist goes in and does all the bass parts.
Yeah. Oh, I mean that all that kind of stuff goes on. I think it was drummers through that. I remember with that punk post-punk gig. Sometimes the drummer, they're the goalkeepers of the music business, and sometimes they get a reputation as being slightly dodgy. It's terrible because once it's on you, the goalkeepers, it's very hard to shake off that you're a dodgy keeper. You know,
Yeah.
if you're a dodgy drummer, well, he's really good, but he loses time or gains time. You know, and they get the session guy in, and it all gets blown up.
Do you know what
It's just
part of it
terrible,
was
you
though
know?
as well? Is back in the day, my friend, drummers used to be the ones that owned the vans, because you had to have a van to house a kit to drive around in. And
It's absolutely right. They're very important, and they often were the bloke who got paid. So this is very linked to my problem probably with Martin Atkins. You know, I've got the thing that drummers, bass players tend to be really good producers in my experience. Drummers maybe not. Drummers tend to be good with their hands. Now, obviously there's exceptions, but they're very good, you know, at building things. Drummers often, you know, they're very good with the physical sort of domain. And my son's a drummer, I remember, you know, and he's actually he's pretty good with the overview thing, but a lot of drummers are not, you know, and they tend to be the ones often when bands are starting out, they would be the one who'd get a wage. You had to pay them, you know, they were the artisans, so they had to be paid, whereas the rest of the band don't, you know. And I still think that happens from what I hear. Sometimes you got the guy, he turn up.
the rest of the
he's
band were
got
at the
van.
bar, and in the meantime, the drummers had all the money and has gone off. Yeah. Don't.
Yeah, but they're often with bands who are just getting like a 250 quid fee. The drummer will be, it'll go to the drummer because they need the drummer. You know, the drummer tends to be the artisan guy that's got one foot in the band but kind of one out, because they're often in 2 or 3 other groups. You know,
Do you think that's where the term "to drum up business" comes from? I don't know. Who knows?
Do you know what? A very, very good point. Could well
Yeah.
be. Yeah.
It possibly could be. One last question, sir, before I let you disappear, which is, I mean, given everything that you've done, what haven't you done yet? There must still be something that you think,
Well,
do you know,
there will be, but I don't know what it is.
right?
You know, yeah. So I'm very relaxed. I haven't got any, because I'm 67 now, so I haven't got any sort of burning ambition to go and do this or go and do that.
But
I'm
okay,
looking
so if
forward-
somebody phoned you tomorrow saying, I've got access to whatever, there's nothing that comes to mind, like I've got, you know, some world-class orchestra or
No, I think if somebody come to that, yeah, I would definitely have some ideas for that, for sure. Oh yeah, I would definitely have some ideas of going back doing some old compositions from, you know, the 1700s, 1800s, classical Austrian, Mozart, 1700s, going into the 1800s, Age of Enlightenment stuff, you know. Yeah, oh for sure. If I got offered to work with an orchestra, I'd always have an idea. But I haven't got a burning desire that I must go and talk to an orchestra, and you know.
but if it happened, it would be nice. Yeah.
I did work with an orchestra, Liverpool Philharmonic, and am I allowed to swear on this? Or is
No, but you're going to anyway.
And I mean, if it's not, if it's awkward, I won't. And so anyway, it all went well. I got a good conductor. I wrote a piece. It was me missus. It was a certain kind of composition. I learned I learned the rules of that composition. You know, concerto or whatever it was. And on the first, I was a bit nervous. You're moving in a different sphere, and I walked through, and some bloke turned around and said, "And you are? Who are you?" And I said, "What's it to you?"
Yeah.
You know, and just told her, you know.
Yeah.
Went in. He was the first violinist. and he turned out to be an Arsenal fan, so made it even worse. Anyway,
Oh well.
but I wouldn't do that. I really wouldn't. It was a good few years, a lot of years ago. You know that I could be a bit bullshit, but I just said, who are you? You know,
Lovely.
And,
I hope you gave him a Tottenham shirt as a present.
No, I mean you just they I think at that time, and I they become the sort of the team of North London literary agents or something. It's all very Keir Starmer, Corbyn, it's all sort of like North London, and Tottenham's this rather common team sort of up the road. Supporters are a bit rough sort of thing. It got a bit like that. If they weren't like that in the 70s, Arsenal, but they sort of become like that.
Yeah, they all work on the market.
All that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Well, there you go. Look, let's hope that happens for you one day.
Yeah. I know exactly what I would do. Oh yeah. I know exactly what I would do.
First night at the proms.
I know exactly what I would do. I know exactly who I would bring in as classical musicians that I know who would be brought in to do a job. I know exactly what I would do to work with an orchestra. Yeah.
Well, I'll be interested now. Listen, folks, if you've been listening to this conversation, you'd like that to happen, just let us know. We're not going to guarantee that it will happen, but we'd just like to know whether you'd like to see it or hear it. That would be nice.
Yeah.
Thank you for your time today, sir.
Thanks, Grab.
Just to remind you, so the album is volume 1 of Dub by this man, Jah Wobble. It's out now in the ether and all of that sort of thing. But if you and the physical copies of this as well.
Oh yeah, it's vinyl. The vinyl sold out. He done splatter vinyl. He really pushes the boat out. And I think there's more in stock this week, and these are silver-coloured vinyl. I think.
Nice.
So it's on CD. And there's another album. My son's got an album out, Tian Kiyi, called Songs for Workers. I'm on some of that. That's a really good album as well. That's on vinyl.
Fantastic. Well, look, we'll put the links in when this goes out, so that if people want to spend a little cash, because every little helps, as someone said, then please do put your hand in your pocket, and if you enjoy the music, do stop and let people know, because that sort of thing, it doesn't cost anything to say that you actually like something. But it's amazing how many people do these days. They just listen to something and then move on to the next. We will be back soon with another My Music, but until then, from Jah and myself, I hope you've enjoyed today's conversation. Bye for now.